What's up, goaltenders and goaltending fans? Welcome to The Net Perspective, Episode 5 from the-rink.com, where we talk about all things goaltending. I'm Jeff Osborne, a.k.a. Gatekeeper at Puck and Hostel on all the social medias. And over in my other window over here is my goaltending buddy, Pete Fricano. Between us, we have over 50 years of playing and coaching experience in the crease. We might be right, we may be wrong, but we will give you an honest perspective from maybe the least understood position in maybe all of sports. So the season's about ready to begin. Pete, how you been?
Good. Busy. Busy with all things hockey, really. And my business has been quiet, so it's been giving me some opportunity to do some other things.
It's good to hear, man. It's good to hear. And just a quick shout out, too, before we get into anything else. My boy Dutch Burton, who was my co-host before, I just saw that he was playing in a Miha tournament this weekend, and he won his division. So congratulations, Dutch, if you're out there. Miss you, buddy. We'll see you around. But on to you, Pete. Pete, the big star of the podcast here. You've had some developments come through lately since we got this thing rolling, since we started talking about doing this thing. So, what do you have going on? What's new in your world as far as the hockey goes?
Well, funny you should say that. So as we discussed in our first episode that I was on, I said that I was last year with a Federal Prospects Hockey League team, which we affectionately call the FPHL, the Baton Rouge Zydeco. I was in their front office for almost a year. It was close. Released in March, and so I was kind of stagnant. And lo and behold, I've picked up a new team. Myself and our old broadcaster, who is my new broadcasting partner, our play-by-play guy. I am now our color analyst for the brand new Monroe Moccasins of the FPHL.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Also added on as an ice consultant, because we know I've had my fair share of time with ice arenas in the Chicagoland area. So
an ice consultant.
Yeah. So I actually did a little bit of that this week as well, but I'm extremely excited about this opportunity. It's going to be great. I've got some flexibility to where I don't. So just for people up north that don't know, I live just outside of New Orleans, and it's about a 4.5 hour ride to Monroe. Games are typically Friday, Saturday, some Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm not always going to be up there, but I can syndicate from my home during the broadcast. So I'll be up there for games. I'll be down here for games. I'm traveling actually up north to Chicago a couple times throughout the year, because we play in Danville, Illinois, against the Danville Dashers twice, and Motor City Rockers in Fraser, Michigan twice. So I will be a frequent flyer back to the Chicagoland area this hockey season for sure.
That's awesome. That's great to hear, man. It's good to get our voices out there, get our goaltending voices out there. It's interesting. I was at the rink today, and this is kind of a sidebar. I was at the rink today and was with my son. We were watching an 18U youth game, and one of his teammates was standing next to me, and he said something about, it must be hard being a goalie and then going into coaching. And I told him, I said, no, actually, to be honest with you, it's actually good. It's a good thing, and it's a good smooth transition, because we see the game from a completely different view than anybody else on that rink. Nobody sees the game like a goaltender sees it. And so going into goaltending, going into coaching, Patrick Waugh is a great example. How many ex-goaltenders go into coaching? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, we talked about it too before. We touched on when we talked about the boys field hockey. I mean, we're out there and we see everything all the time, right? And that was funny. I think that's why they made me captain that year, because I'm always out there. I'm always out with the refs, but we see the game in a different light. I mean, we see it from all three facets. We see it from the offense, the defense, and our own position, because we are the last line of defense. And if it gets past us, it also got past everybody else. So yeah, we've got a different perspective, and it's a lot more unique. Dare I say, dynamic than say.
Hence the net perspective.
Correct. And it is all in perspective, because we have a very, very interesting job. To say the very least.
We do. Yeah, it's a loveless job.
It really is. It really is.
So anyway, well, we didn't have any other episodes because there really wasn't a whole lot going on. There was preseason going on, which is a lot of slop. There's not really, really great important things to talk about as far as goaltending goes. But now as we're getting ready, and I think the first regular season game, I think was Friday, I think I heard was overseas. Based on the way, long story short, here in Chicago, we do not have a official channel for the Blackhawks yet because it's not offered on most of providers. So I got a bunch of people on the internet running around going, just get one of those HD antennas. I don't want to buy new equipment. I don't want to switch providers. I just want it to be where I watched it before on the same provider. That's all I want. I don't care what it's called. I don't care what it looks like. I just want to be able to watch my team. So I'm not going out to buy an HD antenna. It's 2024. I shouldn't have to buy any antenna. Everything's online. Everything's electronic. But anyway, that's my gripe today. But
yeah, I've heard about that. And I think I may luck out a little bit because having the ESPN app, and that might be a good way for you to get around it as well. You may not be getting our broadcasters at home. However, you have that option with the app or whatever.
They have a blackout, local blackouts, and then I would need a VPN, which I could get a VPN. I just like I said, I don't want to do this. For now, if I watch a game, I'm gonna have to do it on an illegal stream. Sorry, I'm just gonna have to do it because I can't do it any other way. And unfortunately, here in Chicago, this has been like one of the most poor transitions from one, like one network or transition to anything. Everything else like radios and all that stuff, it always goes smooth. And even when it was, NBC Sports went from Comcast Sportsnet, all that stuff, everything always worked. Now it's like, well, we don't know. We're, days away from game one. We have no idea where this channel is going to be broadcast. It's like, this is awful. I work in IT, so I could tell you if I worked in IT and I did my job like this and I did a transition like this, I would be fired. So
yeah, you wouldn't have a job, no.
Yeah.
No,
so,
that sucks. It's like what, two days away? 2 days, 3 days?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'll watch my Seattle Kraken on ESPN Plus, or I'll watch the Utah Hockey Club. If they don't want us watching the Blackhawks, that's fine. If they don't want that doesn't hurt me any, So
yeah. The only blackouts I get down here is when the Hawks play Dallas. I get a Dallas blackout because I guess we're close to Dallas.
Yeah,
I don't want to watch Dallas anyway. But I get everything but.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Once again,
anyway,
greedy.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so there's things going on in the NHL finally, as far as goaltending goes. There were a couple big things going on. First of all, the biggest one that was actually resolved today was Jeremy Swayman finally signed in Boston. Now, for those of you who may not be paying attention, I would assume you're all goaltenders, so you probably were all watching. The Bruins could not keep both goaltenders. They traded the older one away, who had value, Ullmark. So they traded him to Ottawa in the offseason, and he seems, everyone seems to be happy about that. But then they had Swayman, who was a restricted free agent, and he's the younger guy, considerably younger, actually. He's about 5 years younger, I think, at least. Mm-hmm. But he was promising, played very well, and it seems that in Boston they seem to have figured something out where goaltenders do very well in Boston, or at least as of the last 15 years. Yeah, Thomas and all, Tuukka Rask, and now you got Swayman, and you had Ullmark. Like even Korpisalo is their backup right now. Like they seem to have good goaltending coaches and stuff there with Bob Essenza. So anyway, 8 times 8 point. You sent it to me. 8 times 8.25, which is it's a large number. It's a large number for a team that has some large numbers on it already as far as contracts go. But he's going to be around till he's in his mid 30s unless he gets traded, which I believe he has some no moves after the first 2 years. So he's no movement clauses for the last 6 years, and he will be with Boston until he's 33 years old. So, any thoughts on Jeremy Swayman? I mean,
Yeah, it's funny because I printed everything up the other day, and I'm looking at everything we were going to talk about has changed, evolved, elaborated on, and everything was like, you know, on the fly. So Swayman, yeah, the 8 years, 8.25 million, which comes out to 66. He was looking at like 64 million, but they got the 60. He
that
got it up to 66. I
that
mean,
that was
it's
the rumor, but that was a like that. I don't know what's going on there. Like they just threw that number out there too flippantly. There was something
yeah.
they were baiting something on that.
Yeah, I saw that in a few different. I kind of researched it a little bit. I was curious. I'm like, well, let's do my homework on this one, and even last year or to a 22, 23, yeah, Allmark had a 2.70, fifth best mark. However, that number 1-2 that they had was great. With Allmark and Swayman. So,
Yeah,
well, actually, I should say Swayman had the 2.70. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because yeah, they were pretty much prepared to start the season with Corpusalo, and then I think now they got a pretty damn good 1-2 punch anyway. Now getting him back in, that's not a problem in his brain, so he's going to be ready to go. So good for Boston. Glad they got that all worked out. Glad he got it worked out, but hopefully he's in game shape as of right now.
I'm doubting he is. He's probably been. I mean, he's probably been training, but he hasn't been playing any games whatsoever. So, that's going to be what it's going to be. But I mean, he traditionally, like it scares me, and I get it. Like they traditionally do not like to sign goaltenders to long contracts. When we had the Bobrovsky thing, like the day he signed it, everyone's like, at the end of this contract, it's going to look awful, but we'll worry about that when we get to it. So, and goaltenders can be flaky. We know this, right? They can go from
Yeah.
good to bad really quickly. If something can happen, something changes in their form, somebody figures out, a tell, and then all of a sudden the whole league knows, and then all of a sudden he can't stop a beach ball. It's like I'm normally not really an advocate, even though I am a goalie. I usually advocate for the goalies. I'm not usually an advocate for signing them long term, like more than 5 years. Uh, um, but they're, this is they got their guy and they sunk their teeth into him and they want to hang on to him. And his stats from everywhere from college on down, he's these save percentages are excellent as far as goaltenders go. If you named any other goaltender and they had these save percentages, you'd be talking about future Hall of Famer. Now, granted, he split the net a lot with people, but if you look, when he first came in, 945, 933, 914, 911, 910, 920, 916. Now, he has not really replicated that in the playoffs, but then again, he also sat behind Allmark, who was the Vezina winner a couple years ago. So, he's got room to grow. They think that he has enough experience in the league, and that's another thing too that worries me about goaltenders. I never want to bet on them until they've been through the entire league at least once or twice. Because you put a goaltender in there, that nobody knows, and he shows up and plays like lights out for 5 games. Well, what about when the rest of the league sees film on him? And again, like tells and things like that, the way they move. Let me get through the league a couple of times before you really start proclaiming on the next Ken Dryden or Patrick Roy or whatever. So that scares me a little bit, but I mean, at the end, the cap's going to go up. I think that, I don't think this is bad for them. I think it's nice to have a goaltender you can count on. He's going to be there next year. He's going to be there for 7 years after that. So, like, I think they got their guy. They can worry about everything else now with the other guys that are aging out.
Yeah, and like you mentioned with the playoffs, like anything else, you get a hot goaltender, you're riding them. I mean, and that's one of the other things. That's why you sat behind Allmark. He had a hot hand, so you roll with it. Also, yeah, goaltenders. I'm going to sign one for 4 years, 3
Yeah.
years, get an extension. Okay, yeah, prove yourself after those. Your goaltender is one quick injury away from you losing money. I mean, as an owner. Um, but I
You're
mean,
losing more than money because if he gets stuck on the
yeah,
roster and you can't get rid of him, like it could cost you wins. It costs you a
oh yeah,
lot more than just money, you know?
yeah. Yeah, you've got money, cap space. Yeah, you get your win losses. You've got you better have a solid backup. I mean, you want a great 1 and 2. You want a guy that's a number 2 that you could say, well, he could be my number 1. And that's really how they need to think now. I mean, you look at. I mean, I see one of the questions. Blackhawks don't have a goalie. Yeah, I mean, you look at Blackhawk tandems, for example. Throughout the years, there's been a pocket of time where we're like, you know what, we got 2 solid goaltenders where we could be, Belfour and Hasek. I mean, you never had we never had a great 1-2 punch. I mean, I can't think of one. I really can't. You had Jeff Hackett for a while thrown in there as a backup, and you had just random, like, you just couldn't. So now I think the goaltending is it's just interesting how it's evolved. But I mean, yeah, look at what Boston even had as we stay on Boston. Damn, I mean, you got an interchangeable 1-2. But yeah, I'm signing the 3-4 years. I'm not going 8. I mean, the biggest contract I saw in a while was the Marian Hossa contract, and unfortunately we saw that ended. Not to say that would happen again. It's kind of weird. But yeah, no, I agree with the goaltending getting a shorter contract.
Yeah. So I mean, it's good on them. They got him in. They got him in before the season. I heard that they already announced that Korpisalo is going to start the first game anyway. So, by the way, the question is from Brennan Voigt from our. He's from the rink, Colorado side. So, yeah, he's our writer. He's our head writer over on that side. So, thanks for listening in, Brennan. You're the guy. You're the one guy that's listening in and watching it. But yeah, I mean, as far as the Hawks go, like, they didn't want to sign anybody. Like, they had the opportunity, and this kind of segues. This is actually really a nice segue to something else that I was going to bring up later on. But we're going to segue because it works this way. The Blackhawks, they didn't want to have a long-term guy because they were rebuilding. They figured if they brought a guy in, he was just going to get beat up and hurt or whatever the case was. So they used Mrazek to get some sweeteners, to get some draft picks, and he actually played pretty well for him, and he's been fine. He's fine. But then they brought in Laurent Brossoit this year, who he was hurt. He's going to be back in a couple of months, but he's a really good, competent backup. Like, he played very well in Winnipeg last year. Now that he's, I'm not saying he's in the top echelon of any goaltenders, but he's competent. He can stop pucks. If you need, that's all they need right now. They have some guys in the pipeline, but why I bring this up, and this is a nice segue, is you'll see down in the bottom here, I just changed the subject line to the Robin Lehner situation. The Blackhawks had Robin Lehner, and when they had Robin Lehner, I was an advocate. I was a huge advocate for them signing him long term because of the fact that he was still on the younger side. He's good. He had a good track record. He'd been around the league a couple of times, and I was kind of more like 60-40 on him. Like, yeah, you should probably trade him to get a draft pick or something like that. But if you're not going to do that, if you're not going to get anything you want for him, sign him long term to a 5-year deal or something like that, which ended up happening. They traded him away. They ended up getting Malcolm Subban and whatever they got for him, Slava Demon, I believe it was, and then he signed a 5-year deal with the Vegas Golden Knights. Only played one of them. He's been injured ever since. Right now, I mean, you're seeing these articles come out. He didn't report to Vegas to the Vegas camp to get his physical. You need to get your physical so you can be put on long-term injured reserve. He's going to have to go on a long-term injured reserve because he had some reconstructive, I think it was hip surgery this year. So, and he's probably never going to play in the NHL again. Honestly, I got to be honest. That when he was in Vegas, he was overweight, which led to his injuries. And now, you're reading articles saying, he owes a lot. He owes creditors. They're they're suing him. Creditors are suing him, and this is the last year of his contract. And it looks like the Golden Knights are going to actually try to void the last year of his contract because he didn't show. He's a no-show when he needs to come and have a physical so they can deem him ready for LTIR. He just doesn't show up. I've heard through back channels he is not even living in North America. He's living on the other side of the world, and just things have not gone well for him, which is a pity because I was a big fan of his. But that was, like I said, the segue from the Blackhawks having Robin Lehner. I wanted him to sign him long term, and then I'm glad they didn't. How about you? What do you think about this Lehner thing?
Yeah, well, I mean, and this week too, it came out to where they're going to pay him his salary for this season. He's going to get that. I had different reports. Was it 4.5 million this year, something like that?
Yeah, which, technically, it was split up, but it was kind of front loaded. He had a little bit of extra on the front end and on the back end. It was I think they sent him 5 times 5, and he could get the 4.25 this year because he had like 5.25 the first year or something like that.
Right. So yeah, it was a lower, and then with the creditor stuff, and there's all kinds of things that are out, and it's like, man, you feel for somebody with their personal life because it's sometimes you do kind of get involved with some of the players, the real people, right? They're not just some guy you watch on TV, and maybe you see him out eating the burger or something like that. But yeah, man, I mean, having assets frozen and things like those are real world problems. Those are like, holy smokes.
Yeah, and I mean, he's got children.
Yeah. I mean, he's a dad. He's a husband. It's like it's a mess. It's like, holy cow, he coming off an injury. And you're right, man. He was definitely a little overweight with the Golden Knights, and that really weighs on you, and that could have contributed to the surgery, it probably was a hip surgery if I would have to guess, because it seems like we touched on it before a little bit. It's the flavor of the month with goaltenders now is the hip surgery, single, double. Yeah. It's like something's got to change there. But I mean, it's a sad demise, man. It really is, and I would have definitely pined for him to have a good 3-4 year contract with the Hawks. It would have been a solid move.
Yeah, and right below me, you can see my boy John Jekyll. He was a co-founder with me at the rink. Hi, John. How you doing, buddy? So anyway, it's unfortunate. The guy's a metalhead. Like, he's a goalie. Like, he one of his favorite bands is one of my favorite bands. So there's a lot that I could have I could relate with him on that level. And it's kind of sad. He was an advocate for the mental health stuff. He was one of the biggest advocates for, getting better with your mental health. Unfortunately, I don't think it's lasted for him. I think, unfortunately, I just don't think it's working out for him now. And that's, it's rough. It's sad. I hate it. I don't want to hear it. I don't, there's even other things too. You could find it on the internet. He was involved in, he wasn't involved in, he was loosely tied to a murder case in Missouri, where a snake breeder was murdered, and he was in business with them. And so he got brought in. He had nothing to do with any of it. So it's unfortunate that, like, all that stuff, that bad stuff, I just hope he figures it out. I hope he gets it together. That would be my hope, that, at least he can. I don't think he's going to ever play in the NHL again. He's getting into his 30s. Like, he's had these surgeries. I just don't see a road back for him. I think he's done playing hockey. But maybe he be, a coach or a mental health advocate or whatever happens. I hope it's something positive comes out of it in the end.
Yeah, and you hit it on the head. That was a really loose association with that whole murder deal. I did see an episode on, what was that, Unsolved Mysteries or whatever the hell it was. But it, I'm like, okay, he got interjected, but right out, it was just coincidence. I mean, he wanted to buy reptiles, and it was like, oh, this is going on here. So yeah, very indirect, very unfortunate. I really didn't have anything to do with it.
No. It was just a weird coincidence.
Yeah, one more iron on the fire, though, right? Like, oh man, what
Yeah.
else? Throw that on there too. But yeah, poor guy,
Yeah.
man.
It's if you look
Yeah,
up, I think it's Dateline, and
yeah,
it's
Dayline, that was
the
it.
title of it is called Venom. If you look it up, it's free on their website. You see his name is mentioned in there. It doesn't, of course, he had nothing to do with it. His just name was mentioned because he was an investor in stuff. That's all that was.
Ironically, I have a snake on my head, so this is kind of
I
which
have
is the
lots of snakes in my
moccasins logo,
house.
man.
I have lots of
Which
snakes
is
in
the
my
mocks.
house. So
I'm
yeah,
gonna have to get you some swag, man. I'm gonna have to.
yeah, you will.
We
You will.
we got a great logo. Now I have to pay for my own stuff. You know, thank you, Parker Moskal, but it's okay.
Oh, you poor thing. First world
I know it's
problems.
brutal. It is. It really is. I mean, but I honestly, I hate that. As I interject real fast, even though I was a one team last year, there's a team that I really, really like, and you guys could look it up. The Motor City Rockers.
Mhm.
I thought they had the coolest logo, but I digress, man. I really like the maroon gold. Actually, if you looked up our merch online, we do have a Golden Knights looking jersey. We have chrome helmets for our home helmets. They're pretty amazing.
Oh, the shinies, the
We're
chrome
we're
domes.
gold chrome and flat black for the roads. They're amazing.
Yeah.
I'm biased,
Yeah, of course. Of course. Yeah.
and I hate snakes, man. That's not. It's just I got a tattoo of snake on my, brutal.
I've got
Move
like
on.
20 snakes here upstairs. If
You do.
whenever you want to come over someday, you want to meet them, you want to hold them.
I'm good. Man, I was tortured as a kid, and I think that pretty much killed it. My uncle had boa constrictors, and I don't think we
Yeah.
got along well when I was a kid. So that was dead, man. Childhood problems.
Yeah, childhood problems. Southside childhood problems.
Yeah, right. It's
Yeah. So, well, we'll see what happens. I think Vegas will figure out their stuff, and hopefully Robin does too. So, hopefully, good on him. So moving on a little bit, we're moving pretty fast here. I want to stay under an hour tonight. We just want to get get back in here, give you guys a little bit of taste of the NHL and a taste of the goaltending. So, something I was pretty interested in and I was following is the Yaroslav Askarov situation in Nashville. They decided that UC Saros was their goalie, and Askarov was in his draft year he could have gone earlier than he did. If people were not afraid to draft goaltenders early in the draft, he could have gone. I think he was like 12. I think he could have been in the top
number
10.
11. Yeah,
Yeah.
number 11.
I was actually that year. I was an advocate that if the Blackhawks thought they could get a chance, if the guy that they originally wanted wasn't there, that they picked him up because I thought he would have been a good, development project. You had a couple years you could leave him down in the AHL, let him get ready, and then just about this time he'd be ready to step in the NHL and start playing some meaningful games. He's a lefty goalie. So I got nothing but love for lefty goalies. He's got a little bit of a swagger to him. I like the guy. Like I liked him when he was in Russia. I liked him in the AHL. I really wish the Blackhawks could have done something. Well, anyway, they tied their wagon to Saros, and Askarov said, "Well, I'm not going to sit around here and be his backup for the next, 6-8 years. So I would prefer you trade me somewhere where I could play." And I was hoping the Blackhawks may have thrown their hat in the ring, and they probably did, but I'm sure it just wasn't enough to get him. He ended up going to San Jose, and Nashville didn't get fleeced on the deal. They sent Nolan Burke and a 3rd-round pick for Magnus Corona, David Edstrom, and a 1st-round pick. So they got some assets back. But the ironic part of this all is that after training camp, they sent Askarov down to the AHL where he didn't want to play in Nashville. So now he's back where he started again. I think there might have been an injury involved in some of this, but what are your thoughts? Have you followed Askarov at all?
I did. I played stat police on him too. I love looking. So now stats are my life, right? So I got to look at a lot of stats,
right?
A lot of news,
right?
But yeah, so yeah, you're right. Yeah, and he was 1st round, number 11 pick in 2020 by Nashville. 22 years old, 6'3", 179 with a $925,000 salary cap hit. You look at his stats: 22-23 with the Admirals in the AHL. 48 games, he had a 269 goals against, a 911 save percentage, 3 shutouts, and he went 26, 16, and 5. His follow-up year back in Milwaukee, 44 games, dropped down to a 239 with another 911, but he picked up 3 more shutouts with 6 and went 30, 13, and 1. Now he's been sent down to the AHL again with San Jose Barracudas. I think it's just a matter of time till he bounces back up, because if you look at theirs, you look at their goaltending depth chart. I mean, they've got Vanasak and then they've got Blackwood, and I think Askarov fits so much better as part of that 1-2. So I don't think he's down more than a couple months. Maybe see if he's.
I don't
healthy.
think that. Maybe honestly, I think it's a couple weeks.
Yeah, maybe 4 or 5 games, 6 games tops, and say, okay, let's make a move.
They may have been taking advantage of the AHL, doing playing games as well, trying to sneak in a couple extra games with him, and they're doing it while they can because he's still waiver exempt, so he doesn't have to go through waivers to go up or down. They could do that kind of stuff. They could flip him around. I think he's going to be outstanding. I was very high on this guy. So was most of our entire staff at the rink. We were trying to tell people that, like, hey, if there's an opportunity there, Blackhawks might want to grab this guy because he's going to be that good, and he's been that good so far everywhere he's gone. He just doesn't have a proof of concept in the NHL, like I was saying earlier. Like the guys, going through the NHL once or twice, so that people can actually see them. Because when they have film on you and you can beat them, that's totally different than when they have film on you and they've exposed you and now you can't win anymore. So there's, that we see that a lot. The great Scott Foster, you come in, the unknown comes, but when you're prepared for it, it's a completely different. You had, Jeff Glass here in Chicago. That was a classic scenario. Jeff Glass got to come in. Jeff Glass got to come in. The guy was a journeyman from the KHL. He was no better than really an AHL goalie. He comes in, he wins like 1 or 2 games, and everyone is like, he's the next Tim Thomas. Like, you need to relax. This guy, he's Ray LeBlanc. He's not Tim Thomas. Yeah. So just chill out. But no one wants to believe the old goalie. And it proved in the end. He ended up retiring like a year later, and now he's coaching, I think, somewhere. And nothing against him, he had a nice career, what it was, but don't say they more, don't overinflate them. Let's be realistic about some of this stuff. So
yeah, no film on somebody to expose them is essential.
Yes.
at least for 5 games in a row until people start. Oh yeah, low stick. Oh yeah, okay. Well, you know what? He's dropping early. Things of that nature. Oh, man,
put a head fake on him, make him go down. He drops his glove. Yeah, things like that.
Yeah. Once they pick up on it, it's over. It's over.
I do that with my son a lot. Like we will after games we will break down. And I'll be like, oh, you see this goalie? You see what he did right there? And, because I film his shifts. You see what he did right there? I'm scrubbing through it. See how when he moves this way, his glove goes down first and then comes up? That's when you get him. You put the little head fake on him. He puts his glove down and you hit him top shelf. Like, just things like that. He can get my perspective of what I see in a goalie that sometimes shooters don't see, especially young shooters. They're still getting, their hockey IQ is growing every day, but still, they don't necessarily see it that way just yet. So,
yeah, no, it's helpful having your dad being the goaltender. Those pointers are going to be invaluable, really.
He mentioned that to me because you know how kids are. Kids are like, "Oh no, you're just my dad. You're just my dad. You're just some guy yelling at me. You don't know what you're talking about." I know everything more than dad. I'm like, dude, I've been playing goalie for damn near 40 years. Like, I mean, I've got a lot of goalie in me. I've seen a lot of games. I've coached kids that were goaltenders. Like, I've got a lot of the knowledge in me that I've collected. And so just use me as an encyclopedia right now.
yeah, you are a useful tool to your son.
That's what my wife's going to call me, a useful tool.
A useful tool, better than a useless tool. I mean, you get what you pay for. But oh man, but no, it's
confirm
stuff, and it's going to happen, man.
Yeah.
Oh man,
yeah.
but no, that's great. I mean, yeah, we and from our perspective, we look going to the net perspective. Our perspective, we look at a shooter, and the first thing I normally do is look at their eyes. If they're not looking at me, they're going to shoot wherever. They don't know where they're going to shoot. I don't really think there's a rhyme and reason. However, you look at their eyes, quick look at the eyes, the hands, the feet. What's going on? Like you got a couple, split seconds there to figure out where we're going with this.
And back in the day, if a guy's not looking at you, you come sliding out. You give them the poke check. You take them out. They got their head down. They're not paying attention at all. They're not going to expect that. But you can't really do that as much nowadays. That was old school goaltending. That was our bread and butter back in the days.
The whole poke, check, and roll was the bomb, man. It's like that was one of the most useful. You know what? Honestly, it still kind of works. Like I said, a couple years back, I played in a pickup game in Mississippi at the Gulf Coast Coliseum, and I threw a 2-pad stack out. They didn't know what the hell that was. They were like, "What kind of sorcery was this?" And it was
What is it? Where do you want? Why are you laying on your side like a beached whale?
Yeah, man. Well,
I'm saving. I'm making a save here.
Yeah. And that's another thing I'm really, really liking about this new job venture of mine. I get a lot of ice time.
That is nice.
I get all the ice time I really, really want. I don't even think I have to ask nicely. It's just it's kind of there for our use, and it's gonna be really, really nice. I mean, I'm looking forward to getting back out there and skating too, because we'll see how my body reacts. I might get a big middle finger. I don't know. It just be like, yeah, you know what? We're not doing this.
I've had a couple of teams poking around asking me if I want to come out, and I want to get back out on the ice. I do. I want to hang in there long enough so I can play with my kid someday. In a game, like in an actual game, not just playing like pickup or practice or anything like that. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. They're asking, and I'm feeling more and more like I got to do it before I can't do it anymore. So
that's probably what you need to do. Yeah, I'm actually gonna bring both sets of my pads up. I'm bringing my old Vaughn Legacies up just because I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna show you what the old style was, and then let my pads try to tell me how to do the new style. I got my pads. I don't like it.
I got my pads hanging out in the garage, right? They stare at me every time I walk through my garage. So yeah, I'm still here in my bag. Yeah, it'll probably happen sooner or later. I just I need a little time away. I need a little time to reflect, a little time to get other stuff done. So,
it happens.
So the season's starting. I don't know, how much you've been. I know you've been kind of more into what you have going on down there with your team, but we got a new season coming along, and people, goaltenders have made moves, teams have made moves, all kinds of stuff like that. You got any like interesting storylines that you think something you may be following this year, or interesting little things you're just going to keep sidebars on that maybe we may even talk about later, down the road. What do you think?
Nothing real crazy yet, but I mean, I want to go back on your potential of not really being so high on the Hawks. I'm cautiously optimistic with them this year because I like the veteran leadership, the Pat Maroons and the Bertuzzis, and those are some interesting old school Hawk moves. Like we got some bangers and crashers now, and some people that can protect.
Yeah, Hawk moves, 2006 Hawks. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, geez, what a stint that was. Well, I remember going to it was 1800 tonight. No,
Adrian Aucoin.
Stop. Oh, Lord.
Peter Bondra. Yeah.
Peter Bondra experience was fabulous. I mean, can't go wrong there. Holy smokes. God, I forgot about some of that stuff. We got to just do an old school recap on some of the garbage years. But I think I think it's going to be interesting, especially when Brassois comes back, what our goaltending situation looks like. I think last year, whereas it got a little stronger as the season kind of went on, But you also can't beat your goalie up every night. That's a
what
problem
she
we
said.
have down here. Right. I mean, who's to say? Yeah. Well, I mean, you can, but I mean, like, and that's what I see down here with our league. Our goaltenders last year were getting. See, you'd have been dead. You'd have retired after the third game. They were getting 60+ shots a night on a goaltender. I'm like, you realize our goalie played 2 games tonight, right? That's 60+ shots. What kind of defense are you going to have? But we look around too, and then Demko. How long is Demko supposed to be out? Is he going to be out for the whole season or half the season? Or?
I don't think the whole season, but he's going to be out for a couple of months, I believe.
Yeah, and
which that hurts them.
Oh yeah,
that hurts them.
Yeah,
I mean, they tied their wagon. I mean, they never really had much of a backup, but like that hurts them because they're looking to come strong this year. Again, like they did last year, to show that they were legit. It wasn't just like a PDO year where everything just landed flat for them perfectly. So that's going to be rough. That's going to be rough for that team.
Yeah, you know what? I was really hoping, and I knew it was a pipe dream, that we were going to take a shot or at least kick the tires on Hellebuck. When he came kind of available, wasn't too sure what to do with that contract. I'm like, oh man, now see, that could be interesting, and that would lead to maybe, man, a couple more higher profile trades on our end. Because those things kind of, but I don't think they're ready for that yet.
They're not. So they're not. I think this year, as far as like the Hawks go, is like what they did is they got a whole bunch of veterans. Just because you can't keep losing every single year as you're rebuilding. They got a couple of veterans to show what Luke Richardson really is and to give the fans a little bit of hope, to give the fans something, because there's a lot of this going around that, the Blackhawks, because they made all these moves and signed all these guys, now they're going to be in the playoff hunt. Listen, do you realize how bad the Blackhawks were last year? They were almost historically bad last year. They would need to improve 45 points in the standings. 45.
That's a lot.
Only 2 teams ever in the entire NHL have made a 45-point increase from year over year. That's how impossible this is that they can make the playoffs. People are not running the numbers correctly in their head. If in theory, yes, they got a bunch of competent third-line players in Connor Bedard and a couple of goalies that are competent enough to stop. But when you put it all together, they're third-line guys. It's a team full of third-liners. Even Tyler Bertuzzi, he's the third-liner. Taylor Hall, at this point in his life, third-liner. Like, they don't have the top-end talent to really go. Will they be better? Yes, they will. I 100% think they will be better than they were last year. You couldn't be worse. You could be the same. But, I think they improved maybe 20 points. That still doesn't even get you sniffing the playoffs. So, like, again, 45-point increase year over year because you signed a bunch of third-line guys. Let's be realistic. They're going to be fun. They're going to be competent. They may win some games you didn't expect them to win, but they're not going to the playoffs this year, and they may not next year. The year after that, then you could start talking playoffs.
So you're saying we're going to sneak in at number 8? Is what you're saying. We're going to squeak into a 1 point to spare. I would take that. To be honest, I would take that. I'd be like, well, let's see what we can do.
Yeah. I mean, are they going to, is there going to be a period in the season where, maybe they're around that eighth place? Sure. Yeah. They may go on a win streak. But when the season is said and done, they're still going to be probably bottom 5 team in the NHL. Maybe if they have some success, maybe you're in the 8-9 range for the lottery next year. They're still going to be in the lottery next year. 100% they will be in the lottery next year, which means they will not be in the playoffs. You can't be both.
That's what that means. Yeah. No. Yeah. Well, they're bolstering up that farm system. That's for sure. They're working on that, and that's one thing all Chicago teams have. I mean, not so much the Bulls because there's none, but that farm system. And the Sox had one they had one of the best farm systems. The Cubs and the Hawks, man, the Ice Hogs really pull out a pretty decent. They really start plucking away and stockpiling down there. I'm really looking forward to when Drew Comesso can come up and do his thing. I really like him. I'm hoping sooner than later. Do we still did Stauber get traded?
No, he was a free agent. He signed. I think it was New Jersey. Maybe it was somewhere around the East Coast. He signed.
I think it was New Jersey. I think it was. And that being said, what's your in absolutely no particular order? Who's your top three goaltenders this season?
Top three goaltenders this season. Well, I just happen to have a list here in front of me. So, we just found out John Gibson was hurt, and he's kind of. I mean, you can't go wrong with Connor Hellebuck, but like you were saying before, he's 31 years old. He doesn't really fit the Blackhawks timeline. He's going to be probably 33 by the time the Blackhawks are actually really ready to win. And with all the miles he has on him, like you got to think he's going to hit a decline at some point. But right now, Connor Hellebuck is still one of the top in the NHL. I'm just using this list to refresh names because I don't have a lot of names off the top of my head. Jake Ottinger's pretty good. He's a good young goaltender. UC Saros is good. I don't know, what kind of order I would put them in as far as that goes. But the two goalies that I'm a big fan of are the two New York goalies, Sorokin and Shesterkin. Those guys are outstanding goaltenders. So I would probably go, Shesterkin 1, maybe Sorokin 3. I would put maybe a Hellebuck 2. And then, to give him some credit, I may throw Swayman in there. I think that his like I said, he doesn't have a ton of experience, but he has enough to prove that I think he can replicate it. So I may think Swayman's up in that, like at a 4. What do you think? What are your top 4 or 3?
Yeah, I'm along the same. I'm really along the same lines too. I mean, I'm in absolutely no particular order. I mean, yes, Jake Ottinger, who very well could have been a Blackhawk.
Don't get me started. And our other podcast, I've gone over that. We've gone over that so many times. We beat it into the ground that we would have loved it if they would have taken Ottinger. At that time, just like the Askarov thing, like I wanted them to take a swing, and I wish they would have taken Ottinger. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's a stud goaltender, but I don't know what kind of defense Dallas is going to have because they've had a little personnel changing. Hellebuck for sure. But he's getting beat up a little bit too with Winnipeg. I mean, they're not the greatest, so you're gonna kind of get that beat-in goalie from night in night out type deal up there. I really like Shesterkin too, and Sorokin. I mean, you when you said both New York goaltenders, I'm like, yeah. You know who I liked, but I don't think I think he flashed in the pan, and he's not even in the top 10. But with Levi over there with Buffalo.
Oh, Devin Levi, yeah.
Why? I don't know why. It's just something about the kid I like. I don't know what it is. It just he seemed like he was a good kid. Good moves, sees the puck well, moves well, and he's another one. He kind of can't stay up.
Yeah, right. And there's been a couple goaltenders like that where the fans are like, oh, well, this guy's going to come in. He's a rookie. He just came out of college. He's going to come right in. He's going to be the next guy. And like in the mold of a Jake Ottinger, because Ottinger really didn't spend a whole ton of time in the minors. He spent a little bit, but not a ton. He basically came right out of college for the most part. You get that with Levi. There was another goalie too. His name escapes me right now. It was kind of the same thing. He was like a college goaltender, pretty good. He was in the system. I think he was in New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken. And they brought him in, and he just like hasn't been much of anything. He's been up and down. And they also had that Schmid guy in New Jersey as well.
Liked him.
But they brought in Markstrom because last year no one could stop the puck for him.
Yeah.
Markstrom, that's going to be big.
And Schmid was hot in the playoffs that year too. That was 2 years ago in the playoffs with him, and they were riding the hot hand jersey. But one I had to go look it up real quick. But another podcaster, YouTuber, goaltender I followed, and between Travis Ridgden and Kazimir Kaskasuo, I started following both of those guys. And Kaskasuo, who was picked up by in the AHL last year by Montreal, playing for the Rockets, signed a contract with Boston. So I forgot he is actually in their system as well. And I like Kaskasuo. He went to what did he go to? One of those Minnesota teams, and I think it was Minnesota Duluth, and played in Sweden for a little while. But he played with Toronto, and then, oh gosh, why is it escaping me? I like the guy, I really do, and I hope he can stay healthy and stay up and give him a chance, because he's it's fun to watch those YouTube folks, But he's a good goaltender, and good for him for getting a little contract with Boston.
Yeah, and speaking of good, you're not aware of my little pet goalie that I've been following around for several years, Calandelia, who's ex-Blackhawks goalie. I became a fan of his when he was in Blackhawks prospect camp and earned a contract out of camp the second year. I was a big fan of his. I always thought he could be a good NHL backup. I wasn't under any false hope or anything like that. I think he'd be a backup. He was in Vancouver last year. He went up and down. This year, or actually not last year. Last year he was in Winnipeg. The year before that he was in Vancouver, and now this year he's in the Edmonton Oilers system. So. Good on him. I mean, he's a good dude, super nice guy. You see, I got a couple pictures up there on the wall of him. I'm happy for him. He's a really super nice guy. Got 2 kids here back in Chicago with his wife and his family. He's got a great family. They're from California, not your typical hockey hotbed, but he just keeps plugging along. He's a good dude. And so, I had a conversation with somebody, and they're like, "Yeah, whatever happened to Calandelia?" And I'm like, "You know what?" And I had to relook it up, and he's with Edmonton now. So you may see that name flying around. Hawks fans, there aren't a whole lot of you out there who probably remember him, but he was a Blackhawks legend, quote unquote.
I like
hashtag
that. Yeah, I mean,
Hawks legend. Yeah,
great pads. I mean, I love his pads. His pads are sick. I mean, those Bryans were fantastic. I mean, really, great setup. When you just real quick, Hawk legend wise. So wife and I went to New York a couple weeks ago, and 3 weeks ago, a month, and I'm like, I need something to read. I always like to listen to music and chill. But Chelios's book, have you read it yet? Have you?
No, I have not.
You got to read it. You've got it. So I read 110 pages from New Orleans to New York, and another 75 pages from New York to back home. And I'm not done with it, but man, because I used to do the Blackhawks fantasy camps over at St. Spectrum, so I did those in 92, 3, 4, and 5, 3, 4, 5. Either way, like those pictures behind my shoulder, the bottom, that's from the camp, and I'm like, dude, this stuff is so good. And then Ronick's got a book too.
I got Ronick's book.
How's that?
I haven't had a chance to read it, but he was actually doing a book signing across the street from where I used to work. And I walked over there on lunch and walked right up and got my book signed by him. Nice. And I actually started Brian Burke's book, which is actually very, very good. I highly suggest you read Brian Burke's book. I love Brian Burke. He is hilarious. He doesn't take himself too seriously. He's awesome. His whole family's awesome. They're friends of my family, and I just love the Burke family. They're awesome. They're awesome people, all of them. His nephew Brian. I did a couple episodes of my Seattle Kraken podcast with him. Great family. But read that book. The book is pretty good. It's a lot of old school 50s, 50s, 60s hockey stories, which I'm sure you could probably imagine are pretty interesting.
Yeah, you're going old time hockey. Eddie Shore over there, man. That's to be That'll be good. That's why I had to pick up Chelios's book, because I know it. I was watching something on Chelios, and I'm like, and you mentioned about a book. I'm like, oh, I gotta find this book. And I'm like, well, I mean, hey, Southside guy, California kid. I mean, there's some great stories in there, but I mean that all hits home because I was around them for a little while. Pete Chelios, and it's just definitely a great read, man. You won't be disappointed. But it's. Man, I miss those days. The Ronick, Chelios, Belfort,
for sure.
Suter.
Well, I mean,
God.
the Chelios name is just ingrained in Chicago. There's still a Chelios coaching over in Naperville, running the all seasons rink over there. There's Chelios's
Steve
all over.
Steve over there.
I don't remember which one it was. I just remember it's a Chelios. Actually, it's a Chris Chelios. It's a Chris Chelios.
That's the cousin.
Yeah. So, and I know there's some other Chelioses that have been coaching around the Chicagoland area. So they're so ingrained in like Chicago hockey, just not only the Blackhawks, but youth hockey as well. So,
yeah. Oh man.
Well, I think this gives us our hour here. You got anything else you want to throw out there?
No. I mean, our real quick shout out, my buddy, my broadcast partner, Joseph Furtado. He played in
Furtado and Fricano. Wow, that is.
Yeah, dude, it's hilarious. Yeah, that's what we're doing, and we've got we did throw out one of our first. It's called Inside the Snake Pit. It's our podcast. I came up with that one. I like that. But Inside the Snake Pit.
I like it. I like the name.
Yeah. Well, they've got the Viper Club there. They've got they call the rink the Snake Pit. So I'm like, we need to be inside the Snake Pit. So Joseph's a great voice. The kid's fantastic. I'm really looking forward to working with him again. I did 3 games last year with him, and even his mom was like, "Oh, those are so great." So, at least the families are all happy. But our first game we've got next weekend is our opening series, Saturday, Sunday. Following weekend, we have a 3-game set, and then we have a matinee on Sunday against our old team, the Baton Rouge Zydeco. It's gonna be a mess, and I would definitely tune in on YouTube Live. You won't be disappointed.
That's awesome. The law offices of Fricano and Furtado. I like it.
Well, that's yeah. So Furtado. It's like Hakuna Matata, and it's like it's like so. But
I suggest you let that one marinate.
And what we had to do is because last year it was so funny because he kept mispronouncing my name, and it was great. It was. I mean, I don't even know how bad he butchered it, but it was funny, and I let it go. And I have to phonetically spell it this year. And he's like, nope.
It sounds like the warm up for Anchorman, Furtado, Fricano.
Yeah. Get
That's what I'm picturing in my head. Ready. Yeah, for sure.
But it's gonna be exciting, man. I'm so excited about it. We're gonna have so much fun. Winning solves everything, and and I went to training camp this week while I was up in Monroe. I went on Tuesday, and man, our goaltenders are freaking stout. Matter of fact, one of them is his name is Marcus Eckel Rosen. He's from Sweden. And we definitely could get him
shockingly,
and he's gonna be great. And this other kid, Sean Kuhn, who's got ECHL experience as well. So man, our goaltending and defense is stellar. We got about 5 guys that can throw our hands. So it's gonna be awesome. Fun. It's gonna be real fun.
Awesome. That's great, man. Sir. It's awesome. Well, I'm sure I hope all of our listeners and watchers head over there and check your stuff out. You could find Pete on Twitter. It's at the Blue Paint 40.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can find him on Twitter, so you can follow him. I'm sure he's going to share all of his links with all the stuff there too. I'll do my best. I got a lot of sharing and social media stuff I got to do, so occasionally I get, I miss things. So unfortunately, but we got to support our boy Pete, my friend of many years. So we got to support you.
Appreciate it. The gray hairs just keep coming, man. I can't stop it. It's so scary. I don't know if I shave it all off. I go a little gray.
I'm hanging in there. Look at I'm hanging in there. Not too many grays in there.
I'm so jealous, man. I'm so jealous of the.
But on top, I mean, nothing left. Yeah.
I'm not pulling my hat off. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get out of here, man. I got things to do. But this was great. It was good talk. We'll probably, I'd like to be able to do it on a weekly basis, but I don't know if we're gonna be able to do that just with goaltending news and stuff like that. But we're gonna pull in some guests this time. Next time around, maybe I'll even go back to the uncaged guy and see how he's doing. I tried to check his stuff out recently, and he doesn't seem like he's moved on any further. He may have abandoned that. But yeah, with that being said, I mean, thanks to all of you for listening and watching our episode. This is the Net Perspective on all your favorite podcatchers, and video versions are on Facebook and YouTube. They won't let you do it on Twitter anymore unless you pay for it, or X or whatever it is. So screw them. We just won't use their platform anymore for that. Whatever, it is what it is. So let's see. I am Jeff Osborne for Pete Fricano over here. We'll see you next episode, and until next episode, get in net.